Ladies and gentlemen, presenting the nerdiest competition ever created by the Language of Bromance team. In this corner, obsessed with Star Wars and anything with swords, Richard! And in this corner, obsessed with the Ninja Turtles and scared of anything from the ocean, Shawn! Brought to you as a Pod Bros exclusive in association with the LOB Army. Tonight's competition is a Language of Bromance draft.
What's up, everybody? I'm Richard.
And I'm Shawn.
And we're speaking the language of bromance. Shawn?
We're kinda doing bromance.
No, this is bromance.
It's the fomance version of the bromance.
Oh, God.
Because, Richard, we are doing the Thankful for Stuff draft, bitches!
Thankful for stuff! Yeah?
So, Richard, this is our 23rd draft ever. And because it is, it's that time of year where, Thanksgiving's here, Christmas is around the corner, everybody's feeling nice and cheerful. Mm-hmm. Why not tell the things that we're thankful for?
Right? And I'm actually surprised this is something we haven't done yet.
Yeah, I'm kind of too. I think we've talked about, maybe we should do a Thanksgiving themed show. And this is the first time I think we've actually picked something thankfulness. So if you don't know, our drafts, what they are is there are 7-round NFL style. We have the first person with the first pick in the first round as the first pick in the second round. And Richard and I flip-flop picks back and forth. Back in the day when we started this, we did a coin flip, and I won. So on odd drafts, I get the first pick. On even drafts, Richard gets the first pick. And since this is an odd draft, I get the first pick, which I am super thankful for.
All right, that's a good pick. So my first pick...
So, and this is what we're thankful for. So this is kind of things, places, person, really kind of across the board. Anything that you would say that you're thankful for.
That you're just thankful that is around and thankful that exists in the world. I'm so glad that this is a thing and this exists. Or I'm so glad that this person is alive or even was alive.
So, all your picks are Shawn's eyes, Shawn's face, Shawn's hands.
Shawn's ability to be so humble.
All right, so for my first round pick, this was tough to figure out what I wanted for my pick, but this is something that has really spawned a lot of things that I really enjoy. It's something that I just probably in the last, I guess it's been almost 5 years now, I've picked up as a hobby. And maybe a little bit kind of inspired us to do our show, maybe. At least it has some grounds for it. For my first round pick, Richard, I am going to pick, it's these nice little paper things that when you open them up, they tell amazing stories. For my first round pick.
The Watchtower?
The Watchtower, no.
The Bible.
The Bible. Richard, have you accepted the Lord Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior?
I plead the fifth. That's in the Bible, right? You can plead the fifth.
Yeah, I
no?
think so.
Judas. Wait.
My first round pick, I'm going to go with comics.
Oh.
I mean, this is something, like I said, I picked up about 5 years ago. And there's something about going to the comic book shop and you get your pull list and you get to take these, these books back home and you get to flip through them and read these stories month to month. One thing that I've kind of been excited about with it is I don't have them all because I was giving them away, but at my comic shop, I said, hey, I want the Turtles. And so they're like, okay, anything Turtles, we'll give it to this guy. And I got a lot of the TMNT Nickelodeon cartoon version comics they came out with. So they're kind of kiddish. I read like the first one, wasn't for me. but I didn't want to be like, no, don't give those to me. So what I did is I gave them away to one of Tiffany's friends' son.
Okay.
But once I found out that we had a kid on the way, I started stashing them away.
Oh, you're like, fuck that kid.
Yeah, exactly. Go buy your own
Yeah.
comics. Go find your own dad.
Hey, do you have this Turtles comic guy here? There's a kid on our lawn. Get him out.
I'm gonna go back and take all the ones back that I gave him. But it's kind of cool that I have all these stories that at some point, my kid's not gonna be all grubby fingered and touching them. I can show him these comics.
That's good. That's gonna happen anyway. Like my son is always into my stuff, breaking my stuff. Like it's ridiculous. Yeah. I'm looking at you. You're a destroyer.
This is something that'll be fun to, when he gets a little bit older and can look at the pictures, I can read these old comics to him.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, it'll be fun. And on top of it, it is a fun little hobby I have. I didn't really think about it until, recently. It's like, yeah, I've been collecting comics for 5 years. My wife's probably not excited about it, but, there's a whole treasure of stories in my closet that, maybe I'll go back and I'll read the Court of Owls story in Batman.
For me, collecting comics is something that like I've kind of fallen out of it, and I'd say recent, but it hasn't been recent. Like I stopped collecting for a long while. I got rid of I got rid of most of the quote unquote collectors ones that I had. That happened really after the market on them kind of bottomed out. But I'll still occasionally on a whimsy, I'll still swing by the comic store and pick up 3 or 4 issues. I'm sure my desk right now I think has a couple stacks of them somewhere. I'll tell you the day I go crazy is Free Comic Book Day. Love that's if you want to talk about something to be thankful for. Free Comic Book Day, second Saturday in May. Almost every comic shop in the country does it. Second Saturday in May, you get to go, and there's just a stack of free comic books that they're just like, here, this is, hopefully you take these and hopefully you like them, and maybe you want to come back and get some more. Like even on Free Comic Book Day, every time I go into the comic store, even though it's sparing, every time I go in the comic store, I'll throw down at least $20 on books.
Well, yeah, because they're usually local shops. Usually it's 1 or 2 people that work there. Like the one I have here, it's the guy that's been working behind the counter for the last 10 years probably, just recently became like a partner on it. So this dude's been working there for, 10, 15 years, and now he's actually a partner and is a part owner. And so it's it's definitely like your definition of local business.
Yes. Yeah. If you want to talk about supporting your local economy, go with a comic book store.
Because most of those, I don't even know if there's like an actual big chain comic book shop, is there?
As far as I know, there isn't. I think the closest thing you would have to like a comic book chain would be Secret Stash, but even those are...
There's only one now. There used to be 2, but there's only one.
And there's that one, and I think Golden Apple has more, has a couple stores, but I mean, even those, they're usually owned by... I think they're franchised out, so it's local people that own them.
But yeah, and the only other thing I think about, like even comics, like sometimes you can build up a queue of too much stuff. Like comics, if you miss if you get like 7 issues a month and you get behind and you don't read for like 2 or 3 months, that's 14, 21 comics you have to read. But there's something so great about like you've got that weekend or like 3 hours where you're going to be all by yourself. You stack those in the order you want to read them. Turn the lights down low and just read the shit out of those comics.
And then forget that the comic books are there and then jerk off instead.
Yeah. And you can't read the comics then because you got goop all over your hands.
Yeah.
And then you feel dirty because you're reading, Wonder Woman.
And you don't want to sully the books with your shame spunk.
So for my first round pick, Richard, for the things I'm thankful for, I'm going to go with comics.
That one's pretty good. Let's see. I do have something comic related. I think I'll save that one for later. For my first round pick, something I'm going to be thankful for. And I'm thankful, in here I'm going to give my thankfulness to an actual person. No, it's not Jesus. For my first round pick, I'd like to give thanks to someone that's not necessarily always a well-liked person.
What do you mean
But-
nobody likes me?
Not you.
Oh, damn it.
He's not always a well-liked person, but you can't deny the contributions that have been made by him. For my first round pick, Shawn, I have to give it up to the gray-bearded storyteller of our time, George Lucas.
Okay. I mean, he's given you your story of your lifetime.
He's given me the story of my lifetime, and here's why I think. Here's what I think. I'm okay. So let's prequels aside. I'll get into those, but prequels aside, we're talking about someone that created the modern myth of our time. I mean, he read all of Joseph Campbell's work, the Mask of a Thousand Faces, and basically tried to take he took stories throughout the ages from 5,000-10,000 years ago to today, took all those stories and said, what are the basic elements of all these stories? I mean, Joseph Campbell talks about the hero's journey and what the principal characters are in those stories, and what the struggle and conflict is in those stories, and how that story taps into something primordial inside each and every one of us. And he took all that and through his brain, distilled everything down to basic elements, and then wrapped those basic elements to birth an entire new myth. I mean, who's to say that 10,000 years from now, people talk about the myth of Star Wars?
Yeah, I mean, if a society collapses, like our society collapses, and the people come here and somehow discover this story of Star Wars, they're gonna be like, oh my gosh, these people worshipped, these things these myths that they thought with these, light powered swords and these giant worm slug things that dressed women up slutty. That's what they're gonna see.
Yeah.
Ookie chaka choki choo.
Wookie nipple pinchy. But yeah, I mean, he created so in the 70s, he created a contemporary take on a story that has been told for 10,000 years. That's despite the fact that it's amazing, that's a fuck ton of work.
Oh yeah.
To break everything down to its most basic elements and understand, what comprises the hero's journey, and what, you have to have the plucky youth, and you have to have the old wizard, that the hermetic wizard that sets the hero on his path against insurmountable odds with no hope of victory. Okay, so that's in the 70s. Now, 20 years later, he goes back and he revisits all these things. And, people saw those movies in 97 through, the 2001. Or wait, yeah. Been a little bit later. 2003, 2005. I don't remember off the top of my head when episode 3 came out. So he releases the prequels. Three new movies, and everybody gets very super excited because they're like, holy shit, we haven't seen a new Star Wars movie in almost 20 years. And here it's coming right now. And people watched him, and a lot of people shit on him, and blah blah. And I was there. I was on that. I was on the fuck Jar Jar bandwagon. Don't get me wrong, but even when episode 1 came out, I was 17, 18. So even with all that, with the fuck Jar Jar and all that, we got new Star Wars movies. Like, we still got more there's more, 100% more movie. And I mean, a lot of people want to shit on those movies, but I'll tell you what, 17-year-old me in 1997 or 98 was like, oh my God, we get a new Star Wars movie. Oh my God, there's Jedi, bouncing laser swords around. Yay. Why? And, my kids have watched the prequels and they're kind of with them. And I don't begrudge them that, but it's 3 more movies.
Do you think that, I know like Star Wars was big, obviously, but do you think the prequels kind of helped at least set the stage for the purchase by Disney and moving forward in its own like new generation for episodes 7, 8, 9?
I think to a degree. I think that maybe if you can't say that the movies did badly.
Yeah,
I think all the prequels are still in the top 30 or 40 highest grossing movies of all time. I don't think any of them are in the top 10. I think episode 3 might be in the top 20.
And episode 3 I thought was actually really good.
Yeah. And like I said, people want to shit on them, but you still got those were 3 movies that I never thought would happen. No one. I as a kid, I was never like, okay, well, here's these 3, and that's it. I never thought there were going to be more movies, and when that happened, I was like, well, it wasn't just this, thing that you had to explain to people. It was like, look, it's right here. It's on the fucking marquee.
Yeah, and now even though he's not really tied to it, you have a foreseeable future of Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
Like there's
you
no
have other
end in
people
sight.
picking that up and carrying the ball, and that's all of it is from the brainchild of one person. And thank God he's alive, or thank God he was alive in the 70s to make that movie and create something that tapped into something in my young brain that that basically put me where I am right now. That helped mold me into the person I am today. Whether that's good or bad, who can say? But if you want to blame somebody, blame him. Blame the guy with the beard and the Kermit voice.
Well, I didn't know that if I did this, that Richard would become a podcaster, but I'm sorry.
Yeah, first round pick, George Lucas.
All right, so then for my second round pick, I'm going to go with a place and kind of a thing around it. There's one thing I love to do, and Richard, what I love to do.
We're going to talk about his bathroom.
First round pick, or second round pick, I want to be thankful for bathrooms and locked doors. No, for my second round pick, Richard, I love movies, right?
Right.
You go and see a movie at your house, you flip on the TV, like that's cool, right?
I just went on a diatribe about it.
But what's even better is when you get to go to a movie theater and see a movie. So Richard, for my second round pick, I want to say that I am thankful for movie theaters.
It's funny because I was just thinking about this today. I think that movie theaters in general are starting to see a sharp decline. Everybody, people want the convenience of video on demand, and people want to see, they don't, people are it's almost like we're getting scared to leave the house, or it's too inconvenient to leave the house and go to a movie theater to see something. Like, oh, I'll just wait for it to come out on video on demand. Oh, I'll just wait for it, to come, I'll wait for video, or blah, blah, blah. But going to the theater and seeing a movie in a theater is an experience. It's a communal experience.
Yeah. Well, from walking in and buying your ticket to picking up your soda to walking up and even watching the stupid commercials that come on before trailers now, it's also just kind of, I don't know, it just kind of helps whisk away any kind of cares in the world, because you're there for an experience. It's a completely dark room. You get to fully immerse yourself in this movie. I've like everything about movies. I love the trailers. I love, like you said, the people there, the interaction. one thing that I've had a lot of like memorable experiences at movie theaters too. Like even though like the midnight experiences that you and I went to for some movies were terrible, but they're great experiences. Like they're things that are memorable.
Exactly. They were all they all generated memories. Like I'm a I'm a fervent believer of midnight showings of movies. Like if you want to if you want to go to a theater and see like an actual awesome have a like an awesome experience, go to, say a Marvel movie or a Star Wars movie and go to a midnight showing or one of the first showings.
Yeah, one of the early ones where it's a packed house.
Oh. And okay, and I mean, you've experienced this some. I think I've experienced this more. Like, I lived in an era where we didn't have video on demand. Where if you wanted to see a movie, you had to go to the theater, or it was either that or wait 6 months for it to come out on video cassette or on DVD, and then watch it on your, at max 30-inch CRT television.
Yeah, and I mean that was. I think you and I went to a bunch of movies, but I had another buddy who I went to a bunch of movies with. Like every Sunday, we'd go see a movie. Even if it was a bad movie, we'd still go. My buddy JJ and I, we drove to Springfield once to see Jason versus, or Freddy versus Jason.
Oh,
like,
really?
That was an awesome. Like we had to leave work right on time and got there right as the movie started. And that's something I remember. Like I remember sitting next to a dude because it was a packed house, and I was scared. Because Freddy Krueger always creeped me out. And I remember as we were getting the tickets, I told JJ, my buddy who went with me, I was like, I don't know if I can handle this. He's like, dude, it's just a movie. It's going to be funny. Like, I guarantee you people are going to be laughing. I was like, all right. And the first thing that happens, we had to sit like in the second row. The guy next to me he was kind of creepy looking, but he leans over and
he holds your hand.
And he holds my hand and says, hey, eat this popcorn. Put this popcorn in your mouth. No, he said, he's like, hey, you want some popcorn? He's like, there's free refills. So he might have been trying to pull the popcorn trick on me. I don't know, but still, it was funny. It was good popcorn. A little salty, but it was good.
Ooh.
But the other thing, so more recent, Tiffany's not big on movies, so I don't really have a bunch of experiences with her going to movies. But her dad and I, we go to movies about every other week or every 3 weeks. So that's something that's fun. It's him and I can go and kind of chit chat and go see this movie. And the other thing that we didn't do it last year because my sister had her first kid, but every Christmas for 7 years before that, we would go see a movie with my family. So it was kind of like a family experience. Like my mom and dad rarely go to movies, but it's like, hey, it's Christmas. What's the Christmas movie gonna be?
Oh, I gotcha. I don't come from a family that did that. Like we didn't really do that a lot, but I know a lot of families that did do that. They would, what's the Christmas? Like when I heard like, oh, this is, going to be this year's Christmas movie. I'm like, is that a thing? Do people do that? Apparently a lot of people do. And I didn't know that.
Yeah. Christmas Day, they're packed. And it just kind of started randomly. Like my sister and I, we already did Christmas, and so we're like, well, we're kind of bored. What do you want to do? It's like, let's go see a movie. So me, her boyfriend, who is her husband now, and I just went in town, went and saw a movie, and from then on, it was like, okay, let's do this every year. And I like tradition type stuff, and that kind of became a tradition.
I like that.
Yeah,
that's good.
So for my second round pick, with all the memories and all the enjoyment I get out of it, I'm gonna go with movie theaters.
I hope they never die.
Me too. That would be really sad.
I would. I'm afraid that's something that's gonna like go the way of the dodo.
I don't know if they'd ever fully die, but I could see like where you pretty much have like one theater in town that is showing like 2 or 3 movies.
Yeah, makes me sad. Well, thanks for bringing us all down, Shawn. Guess I'm here to save the day.
No, it's happy stuff.
For my second round pick, I'm going to go with something I'm thankful for existed because it was around when I was a kid, and it is what opened up an entire world. Actually, it opened up a plethora of worlds to me and got me into something at a very young age. So I'm talking about porn. No, wait. No, for my second round pick, I'm going with everybody's favorite console, the Nintendo Entertainment System from 1985.
Yes.
Good old
yeah.
NES.
That was the first console I had.
First console I ever owned. How soon, like, how many other kids got it before you? Because I felt like that was always the measure. Like when I was a kid, there were so many other kids that got one before me. And I was like on my parents constantly. I'm like, please, can I have this? I'm like, I'll if you need me, I'll do stuff. I don't care. I want one so bad. Like all my friends have one, and you'd go over to your friend's house and you'd spend the night or go over after school or whatever, and they'd have it, and you'd play all kinds of crazy games. You'd play Mario on it and Duck Hunt and WWF wrestling. I remember playing that a lot. Mike Tyson's Punch Out.
Oh, I love Mike Tyson's Punch Out.
Zelda.
Turtles was a great game.
Turtles. And then I finally got one, and I don't remember how old I was, but I think I was like in like third grade, I think was about right.
Yeah, when it came out, I was like 3 to 5, so I wasn't even in school yet. But I remember, I this is how I remember it. My dad must have like wanted to get one, and then I can see this conversation because this is a conversation I have with myself. He's probably like, I work hard, let's go get one. And so on a whim, he drove into town that night, walked in. It had to have been like 8 or 9 because I remember sleeping in the car as he walked into the store by himself.
Uh-huh.
Like, I'm getting me a damn NES, picks up an NES and comes home with it. And yeah, I played the crap out of Turtles and baseball in that game so much.
So great. And the funny thing is when I finally got one, and then I went to school, I was like, guys, I finally got a Nintendo. I was like, I'm over my house and play it. They're like, we all have Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis. And I'm like, damn it.
we have a Sega.
You know what? I didn't care because other kids had their Sega Genesis and their Super Nintendo, and I didn't care because even though I had that Nintendo, I fucking loved it, and I bought all kinds of games for it. I played the shit out of it. I put those cartridges in, and you push the button, and it didn't work. Then you take it out, and you blow on it, and I have no idea what that did, but that apparently did something. And then you blow on the inside of it, and then you put it back in, and it worked. And I don't know, through some sort of fucking voodoo magic, blowing on the cartridge made it work. I don't know how that worked.
I always found that Q-tips work. So you wet a Q-tip down just a little bit, and then wipe the inside of it, and then wipe the dry side. That always fixed them for me.
Yeah, I just blew on them. I just and then put it in, and it worked fine. Then you're like, wizard. All sorts of fun. And like I said, that not only did that open me up to all sorts of worlds, like, The Legend of Zelda and Super Mario and Ninja Gaiden and Metal Gear and Punch Out and I could go on and on. But not only did it introduce me to all that, but it introduced me to being a quote unquote video gamer. Like that's the console that started me and countless others on that went from that to the Genesis or the Super Nintendo, and from there to the 64, the Nintendo 64, the PlayStation to PlayStation 2, and and so on and so forth.
Is there still that kind of push from kids these days where it's like, oh, do you have the PS4 yet? Do you have the Xbox? Or is it kind of is that much of a
I think so from from what I see from my kids. I think so, but I would say that it seems like apps and stuff like that are also kind of fill that gap.
Gotcha.
Plus all these kids are playing fucking Minecraft, and I'm sorry, I don't like. Come on with the Minecraft. I don't. But the other thing I was gonna say about Nintendo is Nintendo not only made me and so many others a lifelong gamer, but Nintendo saved the video game industry.
Yeah.
After Atari and television, the Commodore 64, and after the video game crash, people assumed that was a dead market, that wasn't coming back.
Yeah, they thought
and
it was
Nintendo
just a fad.
Exactly. That was a fad, and it had its flash in the pan. It's done. And Nintendo, I think, is what helped create the entire industry that exists today. So I think me and the executives at Sony and Microsoft should thank Nintendo on this Thanksgiving for their salary. Second round pick, Nintendo.
I like it. I like it. All right, for my third round pick, I'm gonna go with. It probably is kind of my NES if you think about it, but I picked this game up. As most kids in America do. Dad takes you to the ballpark, gives you a bat and ball, tells you not to hit your sister. You hit your sister, you get grounded for a month, but you figure the game out anyway. Richard, for my third round pick, I am going to go with a great American pastime on this Thanksgiving-esque episode. I'm going to go with baseball.
Oh, and just on the hinges of the season ending.
Yeah, and I think so. I watched the World Series this year, and I think that's it helped rejuvenate a little bit because it was a team that hadn't won in a long time.
A very long time.
Yeah, there was a lot of fans of the team, or got that joy that I got because I'm a White Sox fan, and in 2005 the White Sox won, and I got to see a team have that kind of same joy that I did, and it really, honestly, what made me really think of this is the very last out of this year. The third baseman for the Cubs, if you watch the video or watch the GIF, he's a 24-year-old kid, right? He's only been in the league 2 years. Obviously he still makes a good amount of money, but he's not making the millions that, most of the guys are making right now.
Sure.
He won't make that for a couple more years, but you see him come in for the last out of the World Series, and he just has this big kid grin on his face. And it's the cutest fucking thing in the world. He's smiling from ear to ear as he goes down and picks this ball up, smiling as he's coming up to throw. And it's not like a dick grin, like, oh, we're gonna kick your ass. It's like oh my god, I'm playing in the World Series and I'm making the last throw of the game, and he just can't contain that excitement. And it just reminds me of when kids are playing. When you're a 5-6-year-old kid hitting the ball around, running around. You're excited just to be on the field. And
right.
It's one of those things that you get to be an adult and you don't get those kind of enjoyments. I don't go to work and this is the last day, before, we file that paperwork, and I have a big old smile on my face as I'm putting the paperwork in the folder. But this is a guy that got to do that, and it's a sport that, you get to do that with. And even to this day, I mentioned it in a different episode as well. But going to a ball game, when we went to Wrigley Field this year, it's just an awesome experience to just kind of take you back. And, I still feel like it's America's game, America's pastime.
I would agree with that. So I personally am not an avid watcher of baseball. It's not because I have any sort of dislike for the game or anything like that. It's just, I think it was one of those things that wasn't instilled in me as a kid. And so it just never caught on. My family was a big football family. My dad religiously every Sunday was watching football. He still does to this day, watches football. So that was kind of, like you said, your dad introduced you to the game, and that's how it was for me. So I think that's kind of the thing with sports in general. I think it might be a guy thing from father to son.
Yeah.
This is something that I enjoy watching, and this is, maybe you will too. And then of course you're dad likes this, so this must be the business that men do.
Yeah, I'm kind of my dad kind of introduced me into playing, but he never really watched the games or anything like that. He wasn't a big fan of baseball as much. I think it was more of I guess this is what kids do at this age. They go and play baseball. They play Little League. But it's something that I was pretty good at.
Laura, he's got to do something. He's going to take up dance.
He walks in. Laura's playing with the Barbies again. We got to get him into that baseball. What's he doing slapping those kids on the ass, Laura?
That's it. I'm going and I'm buying a ball and glove. Nintendo system and a ball and glove.
Maybe that's what it was. He caught me playing the Barbies against our NES system, and we're getting him into baseball. Why? Yeah.
But But yeah, I think just like sports in general. I think it's like a dad. I think it's like a dad son thing that your dad's like, hey, check this out. This is a sport, and then you're like, oh, okay. So like you had that with baseball, I had that with football, and so like even today, like I don't get as much time to watch football on Sundays as I wish I did. And like with you in baseball, like I never got into baseball as a kid, but that I mean, like you said, like we went to Wrigley Field together over the last summer, and there's something to that. There's something to that whole experience. Like I am not like I said, like I probably will not watch a baseball game on television, but I had an amazing time going to Wrigley Field, buying a hot dog, buying a beer, sitting down in the stands and watching the game. Like I sat and avidly watched that game.
Yeah, there's something about baseball, and this is again maybe a little biased on mine, but like I've been to a football game, I've been to basketball games, I've been to hockey games, and those all feel very like current. Like you feel like you're there watching something. Whereas with baseball, it always feels more like an experience. Like it's basically the same game they've been playing for over 100 years. You look at football or those other sports, like they've changed a lot since when they first were created. But baseball is just
Definitely.
baseball. What the hell is his name from Field of Dreams?
God, I don't know.
Oh, I was trying to do the scene. He's like,
This heaven? No, it's Iowa. That's all I remember from.
This is James Earl Jones.
No, you're thinking of the Sandlot.
No, it's Field of Dreams.
Oh, baseball was life. That's from Sandlot.
Oh, but it's basically just the idea that like baseball is kind of a timeless thing. Like it's the same sport they've been playing for 100 years, and you kind of like, especially at like Wrigley, you get kind of almost feels like you're in a time like snow globe of like this thing that hasn't changed for so long, and among other experiences, like just something I'm super thankful is around, something I'll get to share with my kid, like you mentioned. So for my third round pick, I'm going to go with baseball.
You know what? For my third pick, I'm going to go with another person. And this is a person that's very integral. No, it's not you. Stop. It's very integral to a piece of my life, and I think a piece of your life too, and a piece of our lives together. Shawn, for my third round pick, I'm going with our muse, Kevin Smith.
Ah, great pick. Great pick.
So I was introduced to Kevin Smith. How old was I? I was 13, 14. No. Yeah, I think it was about like 13. And I had some friends staying over at my house, and somebody rented a copy of Mallrats. And so I watched this movie, and I was fucking enthralled, because not only was this a comedy that had, that was kind of catered to my demographic in terms of the raunchiness of the humor and blah blah. It was kind of like a National Lampoon movie, but it was also like a John Hughes movie where it kind of had like this, very heartfelt story behind it. But all that aside, this dude's making fucking Batman references and Star Wars references and Wolverine references. And I'm like, 13-year-old me, reading comic books and watching Star Wars from such a young age. It's kind of one of those things that, even though I know they existed before me, I kind of thought it was something that was made for me.
Yeah.
And so I'm watching this going, holy shit, there's an adult that knows all the things that I know.
When really he was only like 23, 24 at the time.
Exactly. And so I didn't know that was possible. I didn't know it was possible that an adult could make fucking Star Wars references in a movie. And it blew my fucking mind. And that movie became so important to me that I was like, that movie I think was the first time that I actually asked myself, I need to know who made this movie.
I gotcha.
That I think was the first. I mean, no. I guess I would probably say, Star Wars was probably the first time I was like, "Who the fuck did this?" But at 13, but I mean, those movies have been around and were so iconic and whatever. Mallrats was a movie that was so. It kind of had like this cult following. Honestly, it was kind of like discovering something that you think no one else knows about.
This is like finding that band that nobody knows about.
Exactly. And you're like, I have to know who the fuck did this. And I find out it's this guy, Kevin Smith, and he made another movie called Clerks. And I was like, well, what the fuck's that about? And I watched that. And again, I was like, and so it went from there to, it went from Mallrats to Clerks and then Chasing Amy and on forward. What about you?
I was introduced via Clerks, but it was when I was 18 or 19. So that'd have been like 2004, 2005.
Okay. So like 10 years.
Yeah. It was kind of one of those things like I really enjoyed the movie. And the ending of it, which is the alternate ending, the original ending, is really what sold it to me. Because, spoilers, but I'm sure everybody knows, in the end of the original, Dante gets shot by a shoplifter.
Yeah. There was the Independent Film Channel when Independent Film Channel first like showed up on the scene, they did a 24-hour Clerks marathon where they
nice.
play the movie and then they played Clerks and then they played the movie with director commentary. That was the first time I watched a movie with a director commentary. I didn't even know I didn't even know they did that with movies until then. I was like, oh, so they show the movie and then voiceover, the director talks about how he made the fucking movie. I'm like, this is fucking amazing.
Yeah. I wish I would have got into a lot of those director commentaries he did when I was younger. But yeah, it was like he gets shot and I was like, oh my God, he wasn't even supposed to be there that day. And it just kind of makes you think like this whole philosophicalness about the movie. But I mean, even bigger. So, we had our own little Kevin Smith marathon at the sports bar we worked at. I think we watched all of them there.
Yes.
And I mean, you jump forward another 6 or 7 years. I mean, that's really the inspiration for why we do our podcast.
So yeah, so from Mallrats to Clerks to Chasing Amy to Dogma, the wedding party, opening weekend of Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back was my wedding, and the entire wedding party, between the wedding and the reception, went to go see the movie. So they left the wedding, went to go see the movie, and then came to the reception.
You didn't get to go though?
I didn't get to go because I was the groom.
Bogus.
I had other shit to do.
But I mean, is there anything else with Kevin Smith that was pretty cool?
So it went from, so you see those movies and you're like, oh, that's awesome. And the director commentary, and oh, that's great. But then Q&As.
Yeah.
It's I was at the video store and I saw, An Evening with Kevin Smith. And I'm like, it's the director. Oh, it's the guy that directed Mallrats and Clerks. And so I rented that and it's just him talking. Like, people ask him questions, and he tells these fucking amazing stories about Superman, about writing a Superman script, and about Prince, and about, like having sex with his wife for the first time. Like, these crazy ass fucking stories.
And then what else happens? Like, maybe you get to meet him or something cool like that.
Oh, and yes, just recently in the last, let's see, this is November. So the last 4 months ago, Shawn and I got to actually shake the hand of the man.
I actually got to basically tell him that we're thankful for everything that he's kind of helped us do.
Yes, we did.
Richard tried to blow him.
I would have. Like a circus seal. So there's my pick, Kevin Smith.
It's a good pick. It's a really good pick.
I am so thankful that he got to do what he does in the world.
All right. So for my 4th round pick, this is something that I don't know when I would say I actually would feel like I was thankful for this, but it's definitely something that, every day I'm listening to one. We kind of just mentioned it a little bit. I have found a great community with it. It has strengthened my friendship with one of my best friends. Richard, I am thankful for podcasts.
Aww.
It's such, like, we talk about this all the time about like how great of a community podcasting is.
So amazing.
We go to Podcast Movement, the people there are awesome. You go to the forums, you know, just to talk about a few people or a few podcasts that I'm thankful for. There's the Walking Dead cast with Jason and Karen. We just recently had them on our show. Great people.
Awesome people.
Smodcast, which you kind of mentioned, was that's a
Smod.
huge inspiration. We were on the Smodco Pod U, so even Smodcast is trying to help other podcasters.
Yeah.
Let's see. There's
Shout out to Will on that one.
Yeah, Will, thank you. There's a Turtle Power Pod that's all about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. There's a new podcast that I'm on, Subject Found. Like, there's audio drama podcast. There's podcasts for everything, Richard.
There is. Yeah, there really is. I think people that are listening to this probably have their list of, their favorites.
Well, and
hopefully we're on there.
Yeah, hopefully. And I even think of, all the people we've met, like Dear Maddie, we were on his show, and that's like a dude that lives in California that we would have never met. Like, there's no way we would have met him. But through this thing of podcasting, we got to meet him. And even like not being part of, let's say we're not part of the community, it's free content. It's free entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's like you said, a podcast for everything that can entertain you on your drive to work and back. Because I mean, music's great, but sometimes you want to, be a little bit of a audio voyeur and listen on people's conversations. This is a way to do it legally and have fun.
And like you said, like you want to talk about like us. If you want to talk about like a supportive community, I have never encountered a group of people that are so supportive and just urging you to, like, wanting you to succeed.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing that always strikes me the most is that it's such a, you look at like, television and movies and, other forms of entertainment. And I would say that this is one of the few, mediums where artists encourage each other as opposed to trying to step on each other.
Mm-hmm,
it's not a mountain. It's not a mountain that we're trying to climb. So one person is at the top. You take, one podcast getting popular does not take away from somebody else's podcast.
Yeah, I mean, you think about some of the podcasts that say, hey, you know what? Like, we've actually helped inspire, like Gentleman's Inquiry. He's like, wait, I always hear Kevin Smith saying, hey, do a podcast. And then I listen to you guys. I'm like, oh, wow, really? Anybody can do this. So I'm going to do one.
And we're like, thank you.
Yeah, that's what we're here for. But it's like you said,
show you that any two idiots can do this.
But I mean, and like the main thing with it too is like it's really strengthened our friendship. I mean, we talk once a week for over 140 some week or 120 some weeks. Like that's pretty crazy.
And that's just the time that we talk on a microphone.
So for my 4th round pick, I'm gonna go with the free audio content out there. I'm gonna go with podcasts.
Oh, so we're on to pick number 4. That one was actually on my list. Damn. Now what? Well, Shawn, it's Thanksgiving, and I think I would be remiss if I didn't mention. I think we were actually talking about this before we started the show. Shawn, for my 4th round pick, it's not you. God damn it. You are nowhere on this list. Am I on your list? I didn't think so. So anyway, for my 4th round pick,
I gotta delete something real quick.
I am going with, and I'm gonna put an adjective in front of this. I'm gonna go with well prepared food. It's Thanksgiving. You gotta mention the food.
Yeah.
And I'm not limiting this to just your Thanksgiving meal, the turkey and blah blah blah, but just like food to me can be an experience, and it can be an amazing experience, and it depends on how it's made, who makes it. I mean, there's so many factors that go into it, But I would say that food for me is one of the things that I will definitely pay extra for, because a meal can be an experience. Like I've gone into restaurants and thrown, and dinner for two, and thrown down, between food and drink, thrown down over $100, and been completely fine with it, and not, cringing at the fact that I'm spending so much money on a meal.
Yeah, there's been a few places like really that because you go to like expensive restaurants and sometimes it's not a good experience. It's just overpriced food. But when you go to
Right.
those places where it's specific dishes and it's, they make it to be an experience. Like this isn't for you to walk out feeling like you're stuffed full of crap, like a buffet kind of thing. This
Right.
is for you to be like full, but have like a great palette of food.
Like because of this, I have certain rules when it comes to, trying to find a place to eat. I don't go to chain restaurants. I don't do TGI Fridays. I don't do Applebee's. I don't do big chain restaurants, because I feel like the experience is homogenized. And I will go to a restaurant run by, you know, Tim and Sally that have, run the same place for 20 years over, say, an Applebee's or a TGI Fridays, because there's a personality that comes with certain things.
Yeah, I can see a personalization with that. Yeah.
And it's not just, and it has nothing to do with, a restaurant. Like, some of my best experiences with food have come from fucking food trucks.
Yeah.
I love a fucking food truck.
Food trucks are amazing.
Food trucks are the best.
It's like, you know what I like? I like grilled cheese sandwiches. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make the best damn, like 6 different kinds of grilled cheese sandwiches and sell them from a truck.
Exactly. That's the thing with a food truck, is a food truck there's always one thing on a food truck that is just the best thing you've ever had in your entire life. And restaurants aside and all that aside, like having a meal prepared for you, or you are the one doing the preparing, like that can be an experience unto itself. Like just the act of like making your food, making your dinner, and then sitting down with, a group of people and having a meal that you made. Like that is an experience that can be just as powerful as an experience as going to a restaurant and throwing down $100. I have made, a few Thanksgiving dinners. Have you ever actually made Thanksgiving dinner?
I mean, I've helped. So I'd say, yeah.
Okay. How was that for you? Like the experience of making Thanksgiving dinner?
Well, it's a big, I mean, especially if it's with family or friends, it's a big event, I mean, the food is kind of secondary, but it's the conversations you have. It's, all the smells, all the jokes, like food becomes secondary to, I think, like the actual experience of, being with your family and having this tradition thing going on. Like,
Agreed. But I will say that I think the food is what is the catalyst for the whole thing.
yeah,
The food's the reason you're all there.
It's interesting because it's completely different. Like nobody like goes around and says, "Oh, remember when we, every year we go over to Sue's house and we put a new roof on her house." Like
Mhm.
nobody has a fun experience with that. Like it's just work. Whereas
Right.
with that cooking experience, it's just different. Like it's still work. There's still a lot of work that goes into it. But I don't know if it's just more of because like, you get to do it with grandma. I remember cooking with grandma. That was always a huge fun experience.
Yeah. Not this last Thanksgiving, but the Thanksgiving before, I was in San Diego with my dad, and we had Thanksgiving dinner there. And the way my dad does it is like the way my dad and my sisters do it is they just like invite everybody, like friends, whoever, like who cares? Like, so it ends up being like 15 people, 15, almost 20 people show up. And we don't know how many people are going to show up. So we just like cook a massive amount. So I remember that morning I got up at like 6:30 or 7 in the morning, and my sister and I my sister Jenny and I are in the kitchen and we're just like going fucking crazy doing turkey and ham. And we're both like, we start at 6 a.m. drinking rum. And so by the time all the food was done, by the time we got done cooking everything and whatever, it was like noon. And both of us are just shit faced. But like, we just had this whole like amazing fucking morning where we're sitting around and like she made a glazed ham and I was making the turkey and I made this pork stuffing and we're drinking and it was amazing. Like the whole experience of cooking was amazing. And then sitting down drunk with my entire family was also amazing. So yeah. So there you go. There's my pick. Food.
I like
Good,
it.
hearty food.
Prepared food. I like it. All right, so for my 5th round pick, I've been kind of leaving this one out there, but it's probably pretty obvious. Richard, you have George Lucas and you have Star Wars. What I'm gonna go with, it's not you. I'm sorry. I don't have you on my list either.
See how it feels? Huh?
Maybe I've just been waiting for you to pick me so I could pick you next.
Maybe
Maybe you're on my list. I don't know.
I
Maybe
don't know
somebody's not. Maybe I'm not thankful for somebody now. No, Richard, I am going to go with, obviously, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Okay, so your very, very first experience with the Turtles, was it was the cartoon, right?
Yeah, it was the cartoon.
Okay, so did someone tell you about it, or did you just like happen upon it?
It was just a Saturday morning cartoon, so it was just one of the ones that I gravitated towards the most. A lot of kids my age like the Turtles, so Mom might have kind of bought me some of those things. So like, oh, well, kids like this, so he'll probably like it.
Okay.
I probably would say like my love of the Turtles probably came more like in high school and when the new series came out. Because, I mean, I'd watched it when I was a kid, but, like, it wasn't on syndication or anything, or I didn't have the channels to watch it. So I didn't forget about it, but I didn't think about it as much.
Okay.
But then the new cartoon came out, and then the new movie came out, the cartoon movie that you and I went to see, just kind of helped push me over the edge again to be like, this is my thing. And, like, again, kind of going back to my
So the older
movies
didn't do it for you?
No, they did too. I mean, I watched the crap ton out of those. But like even now, like like the new Nickelodeon cartoon is just fantastic, and they've got a new comic book series that's also fantastic. They have new movies that I ignore, but that's beside the point. But it's kind of my thing. Like it's a little bit of I can't remember what they consider it, but it's kind of like stories of groups like Sex and the City and things like that. There's there's a leader. There's the jerk
this
kind
is
of
your
person.
Sex in the City?
Kind of, yeah. You've got the leader, you've got the hothead, the partier, and you have the smart one. Like that's like every group in the world, like movie or acting group.
So you're saying Michelangelo is the Kim Cattrall of the Turtles of
likes to party a little bit too much.
So you're saying when they're saying Michelangelo's a party dude, they're like Michelangelo is a man whore.
Yeah, basically. But and again, this is something like having a kid. It'll be pretty cool when he gets to the age to sit down with him and watch these cartoons. So for my 5th round pick, I'm gonna go with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
That's pretty good. Oh, the list is whittling down. Where shall I go next? All right, Shawn, I'm going with another person. You probably have no idea who this person is. You have no idea who this person is. Stop pointing at yourself. But he created he was the showrunner for 2 or 3 shows. I was kind of into one was okay. The other 2 were amazing to me. And the reason I'm thankful for this person is he gave me hope in arenas where I have gotten super, super cynical. And in a lot of cases changed my point of view on things. Shawn,
it goes by the name of Satan.
Yeah. Man. Shawn, for my next pick, I'm going with the creator of two shows. The two shows I'm talking about are number 1, The West Wing, and number 2, The Newsroom. I'm going with creator Aaron Sorkin. Now, when we're talking about The West Wing, I totally understand that it's a completely idealized version of the way government works. However, it kind of gives me some sort of hope that that's something we can aspire to. And it also gives me, a sense of pride in our American democracy, that a system that has existed for
200 years.
over 200 years, that that fundamentally it can still work, and it can still work in a way that is beneficial to the entire nation. We're talking about, when they talk about, like there at one point they were talking about a probe called Galileo that had gone off radar or whatever, and they were talking. Oh no, actually, one of the good examples I can give is at one point they were talking about funding a manned mission to Mars, and what's his name? Bradley Whitford, who plays a character called Josh Lyman. He's talking about, he's writing a proposal to give to the president on, funding a manned mission to Mars. And he's talking about the Voyager probe. It just, at that point, Voyager 1 or Voyager 2 Voyager 1 had just left the solar system. And on that probe, it carries a gold, and this is true. On Voyager 1, there is a gold-plated compact disc. And on that compact disc is, it's greetings in like 18 different languages. It's pictures of, the human race. It's all this information, but then it has a collection of music. So in the event that there is intelligent life out there and they find this disc, they would be able to see pictures of us and where we're from and where we are on the galactic map. But it has music from Mozart and Beethoven to Chuck Berry is on there. But the thing that fucking gets me is he said one of the songs that's on there is by a blues man called Blind Willie Johnson, who apparently, and this is allegedly, he was blinded at the age of 7 when his mother threw lye in his eye because the boy had caught her cheating on her husband. So Blind Willie at the young age saw his mom cheating on his dad. The dad beat her, and as punishment, she threw lye in his eyes and blinded him. So he was blind from the age of 7. And he wrote all this music. He, became an adult, became a blues singer, wrote all this music, but he died, and he died without a penny to his name, and he died wrapped in wet newspaper in the ruins of his home that had burned to the ground. But his music just left the solar system. And I'm like, oh, that's amazing. Like that's like it, like you swell with fucking like
It's newspaper, everybody. I gotta burn the house down.
like you swell with pride, and you swell with, we like to take a cynical look at so much, especially when you're talking about things like government and politics
and all that crap.
Especially in this day and age. Everybody wants to cast such a cynical eye, and it's so easy to, but you watch a show like that and you're like, no, we can be more, we can be greater. And then you take a show like The Newsroom, which for me did the exact same thing, but did it with mass media and did it with, I think we all have a cynical view of of media and coverage and access and the way television and newspapers cover events in the news. And that's what you get, when you watch both of these shows. For me, like, that's what you get is like, yes, we're not perfect, and yes, we are, it's so easy, and it's not completely our fault that we're driven to this negative space, but we can be better and we can do better, and look at the things that we have achieved and think about what we can achieve. There you go. I'm glad he's around. I'm glad he made a thing. I'm glad he told us why America's the greatest country in the world, because I think a lot of people forgot.
I felt like that was almost like your money shot pick.
Kinda, but I don't know. I got some other ones.
Okay. Well, for my 6th round pick, I was going through a couple of these things, and I feel kind of corny picking it because I was going to kind of leave it as a but like my next thing I thought I was going to pick was going to be like my ability to make films, because I feel like I'm really thankful for that. Like I have the opportunity, to make shorts, to do something like that if I want to.
Yeah.
But a lot of that stems from this person kind of helping push and you said Kevin Smith is our muse, and I'd really say that this person's my muse. Richard, for my 6th round pick, I am going to pick my partner in crime. I'm going to pick you, Richard. I am thankful that you are around.
Are you serious?
Yeah, dead serious.
Aw,
I seriously had you on my list.
Oh my God. See, now hang on. I got to write something.
Had you on my list too. I was going to.
Damn it.
But
all
no,
right.
I mean, so, we go on trips together. We do this podcast together. There was times that I was going through some rough stuff. I was prostituting myself out. I was giving handies left and right. And you'd come over and be like, listen, if you want to give out handies, just give them to me.
That's fine. Here's $10.
But I mean, I went through some rough times, and you were the person that was like, I know I'm probably calling you too much, but I'm worried about you. And that meant a lot. And, from all that, you've introduced me to so many things. And plus, you helping create this show, helped me spawn, creating, movies, trying to create a comic, doing a bunch of very creative stuff. Like, you've opened that back up for me. And, even technically, like, if you think about it, and, I've shared the story about how I got Tiffany pregnant, was coming back from a podcast conference. So, I mean, in some ways, like, if this podcast wasn't around, maybe I don't have my son.
Maybe. Are you giving me credit for your child?
Well, I'm giving the show credit for it, and us going to the conference. It at least allowed things to happen.
Right.
But,
it was
again,
that weird, awkward moment where I'm like, go for it.
You were the fluffer on the ride home. But I mean, there's so much. I mean, who would have thought that, you and I would do a show and, let alone do over 100 episodes, do 120 some episodes in a row. And that's really helped kind of, like I said, open up those creative avenues and kind of find a piece of me that, I'm sure it was there, but it definitely was hidden. And you're the kind of dude, like, if I have a bad day, I definitely can contact you, and you help say the right things to be like, you know what, buckle up, Buttercup. Let's tackle the day.
Aw.
So
look at you.
For my 6th round pick, and you were on my list. This wasn't one that I just decided to come up with. I want to go with my partner in crime, Richard.
I'm humbled. I'm humbled.
What's your 6th round pick, Richard? And don't pick me just because I picked you. That's gonna make it. That's not gonna make it feel the same.
I know. So, for my 6th round pick, let's see. You know what? For my 6th round pick, I'm gonna go with something that invokes emotion in me. It invokes. It can change my mood. It can make me feel better when I'm down. It can make me feel, it can make me feel sad when I'm happy.
Masturbation.
If I want that. It depends on the kind. For my sixth round pick, I'm gonna go with music, Shawn. Music. Everybody loves music. I think I feel a little I don't know what the word is. I think I feel a little poser-ish because I don't feel like I'm as into music as some people, but I liked I would say like if you compare me to like my wife, like Amanda knows so much. Like Amanda will spend hours listening to music, and she'll spend, she'll bring me, she'll bring me songs and stuff from artists that I never would have heard of in my entire life. And but when I was a kid, I was very much into rock and roll and hard rock, and then that got that stepped into metal, and then I usually I usually stayed away from country and rap, but I would say probably within the last like 5 or 6 years, like I've been much more accepting of anything. Like anything that sounds good to me is anything that sounds good. And I don't and that whole a lot of those misconceptions and preconceived notions have kind of fallen away in my old age. And so I'm not as picky about the things that I like when it comes to music. I like a couple Britney Spears songs. So what?
Yeah, I think that just comes with age. Like, I think in high school and stuff, you want to be the first one to find a band, and you want it to be your thing. You don't want to be a poser. But yeah, as you get older, it's kind of like, listen.
Yeah, I did. You know who that was? The person that I discovered before everybody else.
Yeah, that was totally me.
I'm kind of sad to say the person that I discovered before everybody else. It was Kid Rock.
Yeah,
that's who I found.
Did you find him before Ball with a Ball, or did you find
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
I mean, if you look at his history, the dude put out like 8 albums before Ball with a Ball hit big.
Yeah.
So that was going to be his last album if he didn't make it.
Yeah, that was good. That was a good album. I feel a bit like kind of like I like this guy before everybody else, and like that guy.
Well, don't sell yourself short. Back then, everybody loved Kid Rock. Everybody was singing Cowboy.
Yeah. Okay, so that aside, like, and I like I said, I can go. I'm weird in the sense that like my playlist is not one type. Like my, it ranges all over. It's all over the place. I can listen to Frank Sinatra and then skip to the next song, and it's Cradle of Filth. That's the range. I can go Frank Sinatra. I can even listen to a lot of classical music.
Yeah, depending on the mood.
I can listen to classical music or movie soundtracks, songs from musicals, folk music, ethereal music, like Lorena McKennitt. She sings some great stuff. I had a couple of her CDs. Like it's all my musical taste is all over the place. And I can't really describe what it is I like, but there are certain songs that I like, and I'm not exactly sure why I like them, but I do. So for my 6th round pick, I'm so thankful we have music. So thankful.
It's a great pick. That kind of ties into your last one too, with the story about Blind Willie.
Yeah. Very true.
All right. So for my 7th round pick, my money shot pick, I want to go
the money shot pick.
I want to go with Richard, the group of people that, whenever you do something, you always want to feel like it's maybe not popular, but at least accepted, right? Like you're doing something, some kind of art, and people are like, hey, I like what you do. Richard, right. For my 7th round pick, we have a group of awesome people that we call the LOB Army. And I am beyond thankful for this group of people. These are the ones that, whenever we check downloads, each one of those downloads is one member of the LOB Army. And, putting in all the work we do for the show, besides really enjoying it, that's another reason that makes me be like, you know what? Doing this is totally worth it, because there's somebody who, on their ride to work, maybe at work, is having, at least a little bit of fun listening to two jokers chit-chat back and forth and make each other laugh.
But I can't, I don't know, like whenever we talk about, hey, there's people that actually listen, I'm always at a loss for words when it comes to thinking that there's thinking that there's and thinking that there's people out there that enjoy listening to us ramble on about fucking Aaron Sorkin and Kevin Smith and fucking and Nintendo.
Yeah.
It's almost I'm sure I've said it over and over again, but it's so hard to conceive. But I don't want to say that and take away from it and and be like, why the fuck are you even bothering? I am so grateful for anybody anybody and everybody's support. And I try my damnedest to be as inspiring or funny, or I try and be as I want to be at my best because I feel I have a responsibility to an audience.
Yeah, and I feel for my 7th round pick, and kind of this time of year, we're coming up on our second full year. So for a full calendar year, this is the second full calendar year we've podcasted.
Yeah.
So I think it's just kind of nice, as we're coming to the end of the year, getting ready to start anew, hopefully, growing that LOB army, just kind of, saying, hey, thank you guys. I'm super thankful for you guys listening and helping spread the word, telling your friends and all that stuff. Like, it's awesome to have that community, and, it's very inspiring for us. So for my 7th round pick, I've got the LOB army.
Yeah, you guys are the reason we keep going. Well, for my 7th round pick, I had you as my 7th round pick.
Oh, did you
were
really?
going to be the money shot, but I can't go with that because you just put the fans on there, and now I'm like, oh shit. So now I got to figure out, well, how do I, so you know what? So you know what I'm going to do? 7th round pick. I'm just going to be thankful for this very podcast. I'm going to be, because I think that's my way of saying thank you to every single person that's listening, and it's my way of saying thank you to you for being to say you're the backbone, I think is almost a disservice. You're the backbone, you're the heart, you're the lungs, you're the pancreas of this podcast. And I get up here and I do my little, happy monkey dance, and and everybody gets their giggles, and that's great. But Shawn puts in so much work and so much effort, and when I say I have a responsibility to the audience, I do, and I take that so very seriously. The fact that there's a group of people that are expecting something. They're expecting high quality content from us, and I try my hardest to make sure that I deliver on that. That aside, I will say that I also feel like I have a responsibility to you. I don't want to let you down. I don't want to let them down. I don't want to let you down. And you're all this podcast is one of the things I'm thankful that it exists. I'm not gonna, I don't want to sound melodramatic and say it gives me purpose in life. It's not that, but it does. It's a source of joy that I didn't know I could have, and I'm so thankful that the show's here. I'm so thankful that you're here, and I'm so thankful that there's people here to listen. Thank you to you guys, and thank you to you, sir, and thank you to everything. And I'm done. I think you beat me in the sappy department. I had to figure out a way to tie it all up with a bow. And anyway, let's shut the book on this.
All right. So I will run through, some of my and buts. So I had 3 that I have up, which 2 of them really kind of go back into like allowing us to do this thing. Social media.
You're thankful for social media. I had like smartphones. I had that on there because I'm like, hey, we live in a world that, anything, if you, it's like having an ask fucking the world at your fingertips. I thought I had that.
Well, I know social media is kind of like, there are shitty things about social media, but with me being far away from family, it is a way that I get to interact with family quite a bit. Interact with fans. You and I get
Yeah.
to interact through it. So there's a lot of good that comes from it. So I am thankful for it.
Yeah.
I'm also thankful whenever I have those terrible social media posts. I'm thankful for Grand Theft Auto, the video game. Drive around, rob banks, do all that fun stuff. It's my guilty pleasure, definitely.
Nice. I had Bethesda Studios because
that's a good one.
Because they gave us not only Fallout but Skyrim, like two franchises between Morrowind, Oblivion, and Skyrim, and then Fallout 2, 3, New Vegas, and 4. Like you just that's a lifetime of content right there. So I had Bethesda, I had Stan Lee, which they recently declared a National Stan Lee Day. Or not
nice.
National, but New York declared, I think it was like October 27th or something. They declared it to be Stan Lee Day.
Nice.
I had Batman. Nah, I was kind of Batman.
Surprised you didn't pick Batman.
Because I had other stuff I wanted to talk about, and I had Netflix.
All right. Well, I will run through these picks. So for my first round pick, I had comics. Second round pick, I had movie theaters. Third round pick, baseball. Fourth round pick, podcast. Fifth round pick, TMNT. Sixth round pick, that cute little guy over there, Richard. And seventh round pick, the LOB Army. And for Richard going through, for his first round pick, he had George Lucas. Second round pick, NES. Third round pick, Kevin Smith. Fourth round pick, well-prepared food. Fifth round pick, Aaron Sorkin. Sixth round pick, music. And seventh round pick, the Language of Bromance podcast.
Oh.
I think you win on that money shot for sure.
I'm gonna say go ahead, just go ahead, get on Twitter, get on Facebook, just go ahead, just give this to Shawn. Because I think in terms of the sappy, like he beat me in the sappy. And Thanksgiving's a sappy time.
Oh yeah.
Sappy, you're getting together, I'm thankful for this, I'm thankful for that. I'd also like to take a second because I would like to note Shawn and also myself, but neither one of us picked our wife and kids.
Yeah, I was gonna put that as an and but I felt that might be a little bit too much corny. So is that your Richard's closing thoughts? Like, listen, they basically picked each other and circle jerk, but they didn't pick their families, even in their and buts.
So there's that. I'm sure we'll have people to answer to.
This is the episode where the wife's like, I want to listen to this week. No, you can't.
No,
sorry, can't listen this week.
Bad. That was there was an audio gaffe. It's only like 3 minutes long.
It looks like it's an hour and a half. That's iTunes.
It's all static. Sorry. It's fucked up. It's why'd you put it out? I don't know. We just figured just get something.
Well, I'll do a little bit of housekeeping, which I'll probably have to do when the wife listens.
Yeah.
Visit our website. We're at languageofbromance.com. Follow us on Twitter at languageofbro. Email us at eatthebeaver@languageofbromance.com. Check out the LOB intelligence reports on our website. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe and leave a review on Google Play Music, iTunes, and Stitcher.
And don't forget to check us out on the Podburrows Network.
Where it's maybe we shouldn't let John listen to this either because we weren't thankful for Podburrows. We need 2 episodes.
Yeah.
And if you're thankful for our show and want to show your thanks, check out our Patreon. It's at www.patreon.com/languageofbromance. It's kind of our tip jar, way to keep the lights on.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. See, we just talked about what we're thankful for. Talk's cheap. You wanna show how thankful you are? Patreon. See, we're just talking, and talk's cheap.
And you don't even have to give those handies like I did. Well, maybe I'll give you handies for it. I don't know, can you prostitute on Patreon? Can you make that a level?
Maybe. I don't. I think if we asked them, I think they would be like, "Well, I guess you can't not."
It's better to ask for forgiveness than ask permission. All right. Well, is there anything else before I close her out?
No.
Well, that's all the bromance we have for this show. I'm Shawn.
And I'm Richard.
And I say we thankfully eat the beaver.
What? You didn't say I couldn't. He's got us there.